So I just wrapped up the interview with Mike Michalowicz that you're getting ready to listen to right now. This guy actually has written 6 books, working on his 7th. What we talk about is a fundamental paradigm shift for entrepreneurs that typically profit is what's left over. He totally flips that upside down and allows you to think differently about that, to put it in as if it's a big rock, right? One of the most important or the most important thing in your business. Put it in first and then find out that your expenses should come after you've already calculated what your profit is going to be. I know that seems counterintuitive, but this episode is going to open your mind and allow you to get a glimpse of what the systems and processes are to actually get that in place to where that starts to happen in your business. If there's somebody in business that you need to follow, it's this guy. He has a heart for entrepreneurs, a heart for small businesses, and he's simplifying complex MBA concepts, even stuff that the MBA won't teach you. He's bringing it down to where it's very digestible, something that you can really internalize and make it to where your business is truly successful. So excited for you to listen to this episode. It was such a pleasure talking to Mike, and I look forward to hearing your feedback. Enjoy. Welcome back to the Think Bigger Real Estate Show. I'm your host, Justin Stoddart, and I'm more than excited today to bring you an individual who's had a big impact upon me, and I'm more than confident he's going to have that upon you if you listen very carefully. His name is Mike Michalowicz. He's a best-selling author. He's written 5 books that speak to the heart of what entrepreneurs need to hear. And Mike, I just want to thank you for coming on the show today.
Oh, Justin, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, brother.
Yeah, my pleasure. As you know, I serve real estate agents.
Yeah.
For any that are wondering where this content's going to live, you can go download the podcast, just search my name or Think Bigger Real Estate on any of your favorite podcast portals or YouTube, and you'll find it there. I'm also going to encourage you at the very beginning of this show, if you don't make it all the way to the end, you need to go get the book Profit First. You talk to any accountant out there, and they're going to tell you that, yeah, profit is what's left over until you read Mike's book. Mike, let's get into that a little bit, because I think that will be a segue for everybody who's listening. Primarily, again, kind of the mortgage loan officer, real estate agent clientele. They're not taught to think that way, right? But I want them at least to realize that there's a paradigm shift here, that profit doesn't have to be the crumbs, the leftovers, and then hopefully they'll go find all the other resources. But let's really focus on this concept of profit first.
Yeah, we're told that profit comes last, and it's so pervasive, right? So every accounting book that's ever written says sales minus expenses equals profit. Every class you've taken, but it's beyond that. It's in our vernacular. So, if we talk about profit, we call it the bottom line or the year end, all terms that profit comes last. And while that makes logical sense, it fails us. There was a study conducted by US Bank of US businesses, but it's a true global phenomena, that 83% of businesses aren't profitable. They're surviving check by check. And the reason behind this, I would argue, is the formula we follow. When something comes last, it means it's insignificant. Oh, it's the bottom line. Like, what do you call your friends? The bottom feeders, No. If you like your friends, they come first. If you love your family, it comes first. If you care about your health, you don't say, I'm not going to work out. I'm not going to care for myself. I'm going to put that last. If you're taking care of your health, you say, that's got to come first in my life. Well, the same thing with profit. So what I suggest in Profit First is a new formula. It's real simple. It's sales minus profit equals expenses. We flip the formula. As a result, how we execute on this is every time there's revenue into the business, sales, we immediately take a predetermined percentage of that money as profit, allocate it and hide it away, and then our business tells us what's left over. So if I want to achieve a 10% profit, I take 10% of my sales, hide it to profit, make that account inaccessible so I don't steal from myself, and then run my business off the remainder. If I want to have a 20% profit, I take 20% first. By taking your profit first, your business starts to speak to you and tells you what it's truly available to operate the business. And you've also assured yourself a permanent profit.
What's interesting about that, Mike, is that, you think back about some of like the age-old metaphors that people use to help us better prioritize our lives. So you think about Stephen Covey's 7 Habits, right? Where you have the big rocks first. And what you just shared with me just really resonated in the fact that you're right. Profit is never seen as the big rock, and it has to be the big rock. That's why we're in business, right? Other than having an impact, we're in business to make money, people.
So I've had the privilege, Justin, of meeting with now, I want to say hundreds of thousands of entrepreneurs over the last 10 years, speaking engagements, all that stuff. And I do a survey for many of the events. I say, I just want to know by a show of hands, who started a business here because they want to achieve personal freedom, like to have time freedom, and hands go up. I say, keep your hands up. I say, who's also achieved a business here to have financial freedom, and all the other hands go up. And I said, keep your hands up like you're under arrest because you're not achieving either. And all those hands stay up. Everyone's like, oh my gosh. The irony is the two reasons we start a business are the two things we don't achieve. It's absurd. We work our asses off and we're living check by check. We may have the effects of success around us, but we're clinging on to that stuff. It is ready to collapse. So what we need to do is build principles, put principles in place to eradicate that form of poverty where we're showing success, where we're experiencing poverty. I call that entrepreneurial poverty, that gap of perception and reality, to close that. And to close it is first by financial freedom. We must have the foundation of retaining cash and building that wealth. You do it through profit first. And then other work I've done is around that time freedom where we have the ability to delegate. But profit first is all about that foundation, the necessary foundation of accumulating wealth every single transaction, every day, chipping away at that. It's not a miracle moment. I think that's what a lot of entrepreneurs think. If I just stick this out long enough, one day that miracle is going to happen. It ain't. You got to make this a discipline. And it's really that simple. Take your profit first.
Well, again, it goes back to even just the personal finance principles, right? Taught in like The Richest Man in Babylon.
Babylon, yeah.
Pay yourself first. Like it's that same principle applied to business. And what I see is that the world, especially with the internet now, there's so many people trying to tell us that they have the solution that we need, right? I mean, like marketers are getting really good and very pervasive.
Yeah.
And sometimes they do have the right product. But I will say, being in my seat where I serve residential real estate agents all day long, I ask them like once a year, do you go through and like audit what's coming out of your checking account? And those that do are like, it's amazing to me, the things that I said yes to during the year that I'm like, and oftentimes it's quick fixes, right? It's leads, it's not to say that all those are bad, but if you're not leveraging it and using it and implementing it into your life and business, then it is bad. And the problem, I think, with the traditional paradigm that I see is that, again, those expenses seem necessary because, again, profit is an afterthought, right? It's not something that you don't have to fit those expenses around that, what should be the elephant in the room, which is, oh yeah, I need to have profit.
Yeah, a lot of these ideas, these quick fixes require something that we can't do. And what it requires often is habit to change. If you just do this and stick with it, it's going to change your life. The problem is the stick with it part. Humanity is very hard to change our habits. Instead, what I believe is don't try to change your habits, try to channel your habits. What do you already do that with just a little systemization can bring about what you want? So here's what I discovered with Profit First. Most entrepreneurs have been told to change their habits, go into your accounting system, set these things up, create a spreadsheet, track your budgets. So those are the quick fixes that are out there. The thing is, we can't stick with it because most entrepreneurs use a simple system. It's called bank balance accounting. You grab out your handy dandy phone, you log into your bank account, and you see how much money you have that day. And the system works like this. If there's money, it's like, okay, we're good. If there's no money, it's like, oh shit, what am I going to do? I need to sell something to somebody. It becomes panic fest. My realization was, this is what I do. I log into my bank account every single day to see how much money's there. Therefore, I need to put a system at my bank account. I'll give you an example in my personal life. I wanted to start exercising regularly, and I wasn't. And then one day, I simply analyzed what's the existing habits I have when I wake up. I wake up, I go to the bathroom, then I'm like, oh, maybe I should have a cup of coffee, blah, blah, blah. Well, I realized when I wake up, the first thing I do, my existing habits go to the bathroom. I did something real simple. I put my gym sneakers, my shoes, on top of the toilet seat. The only way I can use the toilet now is by grabbing and holding my gym shoes. I'm like, okay, gym shoes are in hand, just put them on your feet. And it starts the process. I've been working out very consistently ever since I changed that little thing. I didn't change me. I just intercepted my natural behavioral path. What we do with Profit First is we set this up at your bank because almost all entrepreneurs and business owners log into their bank account. So we set up multiple accounts at the bank with predetermined use. One's for profit. Another one's to pay your salary, which is different than profit. Another one's reserved for tax liabilities. Another one's for the operations of your business. Then when money flows in, we carve up that money for its intended use before we spend a dime. And now the beauty is we log into our phone to see how much money we have, and we know what money is available for what purpose before we spend any of it.
And that's the problem that you've just identified, is that, again, that typically a bank account becomes, that's how much I have to spend without thinking in advance of taxes, right? And without thinking about all these other areas. I mean, it can become a real nightmare real quick. And I see a lot of newer real estate agents get in, they're very talented. they're running quickly, they're making money. Pretty soon you start to see the fancy cars and the upgraded house, and you're wondering like, I hope this ends well, right? I hope that behind the scenes there's somebody going to these other places, or that's all going to be a vacation as opposed to a lifestyle, right? It's going to be, that was fun to drive that car for a little while.
Yeah. And you know what, the danger too of that money in the bank account is we double spend or triple spend in our head. So say $1,000 comes in, it's like, oh, I got $1,000. Oh, you know what? I could use this for an amazing vacation I want to go on. Oh, you know what I can also use this for? I could use it to hire someone. I need an assistant. Oh, you know what I can also use it for? We spend that $1,000, $3,000 or $4,000, dollars worth. And then when we do that first action, all those other things can't be done now. It's like, what's going on? So our mind actually spends this money because there's always possibilities. Once we first carve it up, we know its exact intended use. If money goes into the profit account, it ain't for the business. It's for a reward for the shareholder, meaning you who started the business on a periodic basis. So now you know it can't be used for that. When the other money goes to your owner's compensation, now you know what your normalized salary is, what you're intended to live off, so your lifestyle can be reasonable and appropriate for your income. And it'll encourage you to increase your actual overall income to continue to support your lifestyle at a new level if you so desire. You'll know what money is reserved for taxes, to the government, and you'll know what's truly available to operate your business. That clarity is profound. And sadly, some people say, Mike, this is a shell game. I mean, it's the same amount of money, you're just carving it up. I'm like, exactly. Now you know exactly the intended use of this money. You've put it in these little buckets before you spent it. It's a behavioral game, but we need that to manage our money because most people are not Spocks. And that's a wonderful thing. Most of us don't behave logically. We behave emotionally. But when money's allocated to its intended use, we work within the confines of what that can be intended for, or what that is intended for.
Well, and so much of, again, is psychology, because I think human nature is to do just enough work to get the result that you think you want. And the problem is there's not clarity on where you're really at, right? There's this mirage or this illusion that I'm doing better than I think because I haven't accounted for all these other things. And so people stop working. They don't generate enough business to actually live the lifestyle that they think they can. And then they get in trouble, right? And they start making decisions, whether it be when they're in front of clients, they're making decisions that maybe wouldn't be totally advisable for the client. It's for their own good and not for the client's good, and or within their team, they're not truly able to invest in the infrastructure and the people and the systems to be able to build a long-term business. So it's all this, always catching up without ever being really intentional about the business.
Right. The root of intention was so interesting. I was watching Susie Orman, and I'm not a fan of hers per se. I don't watch her regularly, but one day I turned it on and I became a fan in one episode. She was actually on stage delivering a speech. And she says, I'll tell you the day you become rich. And that was like her cliffhanger sentence. I'm like, yes. And she goes, the moment you get more happiness out of saving money than spending money is the day you become rich. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, that's it. It's my emotional attachment. I was attached to the accumulation of stuff to show, like, look how significant I am. Now I'm attached to the stability and confidence. I found there's actually a truism about this in so many aspects of life. I play Texas Hold'em with friends occasionally and some poker, really just for the community, just to hang out with my buddies. But here's what's so interesting. I noticed when playing cards, the person with the weak hand bluffs. They want to show a strong hand. They want to show the big house, the success. Just look how great I am, because they're weak inside. Conversely, the strong hand, the guy that has the 4 aces in his hand, that person doesn't need to show confidence. In fact, they feel very comfortable showing weakness because they want everyone to stay on the table so they can take their money. So they're like, yeah, I'm not, I'm fine. Well, I find this true in life too. The people that need to show success are usually the least successful people. And the people that don't need to show success often are the most successful in all definitions of it. And that's what Profit First does, is once we start prioritizing the savings, it brings this internal confidence. We don't need to show off how successful we are. But the ironic thing is we have the power to do things because of the monetary success, to do things, but you don't feel compelled to show it. It's an interesting kind of reverse relationship of what I thought how the world actually operated.
You know what stands out to me right there? I'm actually reading a book right now that's teaching a very similar principle, that the key to success is in doing the everyday mundane activities that most people can't sustain over time. But it's not just doing them, it's actually loving doing them, because that's the difference. The reality is that you and me will only get up and do the things that we truly love for a long enough period of time for them to actually work, right? Whether it be writing, whether it be exercising, we have to actually have this conversion inside that says like, I actually enjoy doing that. I actually enjoy saving. I enjoy being a profitable business owner, right?
Yep.
And I think once that starts to happen, similar to what you're saying here, is that we start to have this paradigm shift of actually becoming successful, of actually
right. The joy for the process.
Yeah.
You know, I've been studying athletes. What's one of the fascinating things about writing? I write every single day to write my books, and I'm always working on it. And what's so fascinating is I delve into different arenas that I investigate to see what drives success and the different definitions of success. Success could be a definition of happiness and joy or financial. There's so many definitions of it. But I was looking at athletes, and consistently the best athletes love the process. To your point, they love the micro mechanics. It's the football player who studies over and over again how to make a little sharper cut, 3 steps, and the right way to plant the foot so you can cut really fast to throw off the defender, and repeats that over and over again. Remember the story of Jerry Rice, the fabled receiver from the 49ers, would show up to practice an hour earlier than everyone else and go an hour longer. And it was not because he was just showing up and lollygagging around. He was practicing routes 2 extra hours per day over every other receiver, and became one of the most prolific receivers of modern football, of all football. And so you see this over and over again. And listen, and we all know this inherently, a master guitarist, it's not like they show up and all of a sudden they're just playing. Behind that is tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of just playing that same note over and over and over again until it becomes part of their being. Well, that's true for all of us. Mastery comes through mastering the individual steps to get to that perception of mastery.
Man, so good.
Realization of it.
Mike, this has been such a pleasure to have you on. I want everybody here to know, before I go to my signature question, the final show that will wrap it all up, or the final question that will wrap it all up, I want people to know, again, how to find you. I know I just saw that you released something called the Legacy League. Again, I believe that you are critical for entrepreneurs to simplify things enough to where they can focus on what they're good at, right? They're not necessarily, they didn't get into business because they're great at business necessarily. They're good at one particular tactic, yet they're missing kind of the simplified MBA to be able to run effectively. So tell us where people can find you, specifically your book, Profit First, the Legacy League, all these resources that I think will help real estate agents really be able to serve their clients and their families, their causes at a much better, in a much better way than they could otherwise.
Sure. Thank you for inviting me to share this. So it's all at my website. I'll give you 2 ways to get there. You can go the long way, which is my name, MikeMichalowicz.com. It's a long way because no one can spell it. Here's the shortcut, MikeMotorbike.com. Now, the irony is that's my nickname from high school. I've never driven a motorcycle in my life, but it rhymes. So if you go to MikeMotorbike.com, on my site, all my books are there. I've written now 6 books. I'm working on my 7th book, free chapter downloads. I just write for the Wall Street Journal. You can get that. And I have started this thing called the Legacy League. It is a group of community of entrepreneurs where we're just going through very specific core process-based foundational elements that bring about mastery. So you can get information on that too at MikeMotorbike.com.
I love it, Mike. Okay, signature question of the show. You're a big thinker. That's why you're on the Think Bigger Real Estate Show. What does a big thinker like you do to continue to be a big thinker, to continue to expand your possibilities? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, for me, it's just constantly getting outside of my domain. So I love small business, but I can only bring insights into small business if I look outside of small business. So investigating sports, visiting all these different organizations and groups. I was just studying recently Alcoholics Anonymous and how they manage the process, the 12-step process. I'm looking at all these different things in nature right now too. All that stuff, it all translates back in my mind to serving my community. So getting outside of your community, ironically, is the best way to come back and serve your community.
So brilliant. I think we can all learn so much from that. I was actually talking to a real estate agent yesterday, and she said, I need to know where to go to I can learn. I can't, like, I've outgrown kind of my area. And I said, you might have to start looking outside of real estate, you know?
Great advice.
And I love that you said that. So Mike, thank you again so much for being a guest today. My final request of everybody listening today, they're 3 simple words. You've heard me say them before, and they are go, think bigger. Mike, thank you so much for helping us do that today. It's been such a pleasure, my friend. Look forward to staying in contact.
Thank you, brother.
All right, man. Talk to you soon.
See you. Bye-bye.